just crowned a good night for England. Again, another clean sheet after 70% of possession and 19 shots. Serbia managing just the one shot on goal, and they are out because of Albania's victory as well. So Albania into the runners-up spot. But all the interest from the England perspective came from Thomas Tuchel's quote before the game, saying, at the moment, if we keep the structure we have, Foden, Bellingham, Kane cannot play together. They can, but not in the structure, not for the balance that we developed, and not for the structure that comes with wingers who are specialists in their position. We will always do what's best for balance, and we'll try to keep the clarity, even if it means we have to take tough decisions. And he didn't start Bellingham tonight. Craig, I don't know if you saw the discussion, the rather fruity discussion we had yesterday about can Kane and Foden and Bellingham play, and what's Bellingham's best position? Is he a number 10? Should he be starting for England?
Well, I don't think he's playing. I don't think he's played quite enough games yet to get his full fitness. We were talking before we came on air. He's looking better than he was at the start of the season because he came off that shoulder surgery, which was delayed because of the Club World Cup, which really was, it's another argument. It was a big no-no for a player, really. But Real Madrid took that decision, so he's been sort of behind the eight ball, catching up, and there's been some, I'll say, animosity between Tuchel and the Bellingham camp, call it what you will, but there's certainly been some aggravation and some words. But I don't really see and listen, this is Tuchel's decision, how he plays and who he plays in what position and what structure. But I hasten to add, I don't think it's very wise to be telling the whole world at this moment in time that the three of them can't play together.
Yeah.
Because if he puts the three of them together in America next year and it doesn't work, the English media are going to, what's the first thing they're going to say is, well, you said 6 months ago they couldn't play together, and now you're putting them in there. So, I think he's, why would you hamstring yourself by saying this? Even if you think it, just don't say it. And just, I don't see how they can't play together if that's what you wanted to do. I think, if you want to play Bellingham in the 10, you could play Foden on the right, but then Bukayo Saka plays there. So Morgan Rogers he's signed a new contract at Aston Villa. He's a very good player. Now, is he of Bellingham standard once Bellingham's fully fit? Probably not just yet. Hasn't got that experience. So there are lots of caveats to this, but I don't understand the need for a manager to come out pre-World Cup and say, 3 of my star players cannot play together, because I think that's just shoehorning yourself into a corner.
Gab, as a noted Tuchelista, is there a method to his madness?
I think there's a method, and I think, as a fan, as a football fan, I love the fact that he's honest. And what he's saying is common sense. If you take the whole context, he said, if we play with the structure where we have a center forward and 2 wingers, 2 specialist wingers, I think he said. So that's not Foden, that's not Bellingham, and that's obviously not Harry Kane. Then I can't play the 3 of them together. And Kane is going to start because he's a center forward. And then there's 1 slot left. Unless, and this goes to the heart of it, Bellingham decides to go back to his Borussia Dortmund days and he shows that he can play in central midfield, and then maybe there's a spot for Bellingham in place of Elliot Anderson alongside Declan Rice. But that's not an option that's on the table. That's not where he plays for Real Madrid. That's not where he's been playing for England. And by the way, just to add to this, you also have Cole Palmer, who at some point you presume is going to be fit as well. So I love the honesty as a fan. Yeah, media-wise, Craig is absolutely correct. There is no reason to answer this question honestly, but we can't have it both ways, right? We can't demand honesty from the people, from coaches, and then when they're honest, go and say, oh, but you said. Like, if it doesn't work out for him at the World Cup, he's out the door anyway. So I think he figures, might as well be straight with people.
Yeah. Nedum, who's your starting midfield for England right now?
I think given how well Anderson and Rice have played together, I think it has to feature those 2. So as a consequence, it is a case of who's going to be in that 10 or perhaps that slightly more advanced attacking midfielder role. And ultimately, I think Tuchel talking about balance and so on of the team, again, I'm with the guys. You didn't need to come out and say it and be that specific at this moment in time, because that kind of sends a message not just to say the world out there, but also to the players themselves. Because if one of them, say, for example, in training gets given a bib to say you're starting this week, I think one of the others knows that they're not going to be. But from the highlights that we've just seen, I think Harry Kane gets the ball in similar positions to where, say, Bellingham does, but instead of the way that Bellingham's driving with the ball, Harry Kane might play a 40, 50, 60-yard diagonal ball, and we all know he's brilliant at doing that. So I think the Harry Kane situation is the one that's really going to be affecting, say, these number 10s, because it has to be the right sort of partnership. And maybe Morgan Rogers being somebody who can be more patient and stay high, that's perfect for Kane, because Kane will play those long passes. He's at times almost as free to roam wherever he likes, and that can be brilliant for him in those games that are really, really open. But I think it's just a shame in some ways, because he roams. It almost limits the way that you can have like a ball playing number 10 like a Foden, have a ball playing number 10 maybe like a Cole Palmer if he becomes available. So I think it's a tricky situation, but ultimately I think the bigger thing for me is the fact that he likes the balance of Rice and Anderson in there, and I think that's been a big part of why England have been so comfortable in this part of the season so far. I think the fact that the two of them can understand when to stay, when to go, really good footballers in terms of passing it around, but then they've also got the ability to drive and be incisive in that final third. I think that's probably more important than deciding which of those guys is going to be in there instead.
There's a lot of tools in that. They've always had in recent years, a lot of game changers in the final third and goal scorers, particularly in Harry Kane. And he has it again. If you look at, even Anthony Gordon at Newcastle, you've got Saka, you got Cole Palmer, as Gab mentioned, you got Rashford back and playing some good football on loan at Barcelona. You got Morgan Rogers, you got Bellingham, you got Eze, who's I think is a brilliant player. But what we don't know, Adrian, is how these guys will be playing a month before or 6 weeks before the World Cup. Are they in form? Are they injured? Have they been out the team? Are they low in confidence? Things change quickly in this game, and so you put your best pieces of the jigsaw that you think, leading up to a tournament, your squad and your team. But that all goes out the window with, one rash tackle or a loss of form. Phil Foden, for example, he's playing much better this year, but he's come out of the doldrums, from Manchester City in the last 18 months. So we really don't know. I mean, we pretty much know if he stays fit, Bukayo Saka, his consistency is fantastic. But we don't know with the likes of Phil Foden how the rest of this season is going to go, because he has struggled over the last year or so. So that's a big part of what a manager has to plan for.
And last thing on this England midfield jigsaw, is Elliot Anderson indispensable? I mean, is he...
We've got Jordan Henderson back now, haven't you? That rolled back a few years there.
But is he?
Well, I think I think Newcastle were actually disappointed to lose him, but there was a PSR issue, and so they had to sell a player. Eddie Howe touched on that. He said, we did not want to lose Elliot Anderson. He's gone to Forest. He's getting more game time. He's proven himself a really good player. And I think at the moment, yes, he is. But as the guys have said, he potentially could drop, Jude Bellingham back a little bit deeper and make things happen that way. But at the moment, the Rice and Anderson partnership has worked very well for England. So kudos to Elliot Anderson for the way he's playing for club and country.
Yeah. Nedum, the only question is, could Declan Rice perhaps move back there and play that role to shoehorn in the players we've been talking about?
Yeah, I think obviously he could do it because he's such a fantastic player, but then you miss out on some of the attacking threat that he has as well. I think when you see that sort of double pivot in there, you can see the plus side of it all, understanding when to stay, understanding when to go, timing the runs well, knowing whether it's a longer pass, a shorter pass, or even driving with the ball. And I think if you put him into that sixth position, you almost anchor a player that's got so much more to give. And it wouldn't surprise me to say if there are two in there, he could step up and score maybe important goals, get an important assist. But if he's playing in that six, I think it makes him probably a bit too one-dimensional, and you'd be wasting, one of England's best players.
All right, great stuff. England safely through to the US. ESPN FC available every day.
Believe it or not, we'll be back tomorrow.
Yeah, it's every day through the World Cup as well, just to whet your appetite for that.